Hi, and welcome to another edition of Right on Rangers Live. Coming at you as we finish out this Dallas Mavericks game against the Houston Rockets. Dallas looking to cruise to their second straight victory. Anthony Davis making his debut today. We're going to talk all about it. Let's finish this one out here. We got the broadcast up as we talk. We'll finish it out with y'all. Mavs up 110-101. 110-100 right now with 1:07 left to play. Hope all of y'all are having a good weekend so far. We are definitely enjoying the Anthony Davis debut. Yes, AD, I'm sure it's definitely reached everyone by now. Gone out with a lower body injury, looked like an abdominal injury. Something that I'm sure he'll be able to come back from relatively quickly, but clearly maybe not completely healed. I can't say that I'm overly worried about the Anthony Davis injury at this point. I think that he'll be fine. Probably he'll need to miss a few games, but clearly nothing too major there. I think it's going to be all right. He was able to stay on the floor for a little bit. Ultimately went to the locker room, was ruled out. Rockets just missed a free throw. Looks like they are awarding Dallas ball here. Minute left to go. All but over in this one. Max Christie made quite the impression on the home crowd. Just hit a deep three to put the Mavs up by 9, I believe. Max Christie, kind of a forgotten asset in that trade. Really a forgotten asset in the trade for Luka Doncic to the Lakers. He's actually had a really solid debut for the Mavs. I absolutely have been impressed with Max Christie and what he's been able to do so far. I don't think a lot of people really knew what they were getting with Max Christie, but Max Christie has had a hell of a 3-game stretch for the Dallas Mavericks. I don't know if he's at 15. I know he scored 15 even in each of the last 2 games. I'll have to look at the stat line and see where he's at for this one. But Max Christie, really great start to his Dallas Mavericks debut. And he's been doing a lot for the team here in this fourth quarter. Christie's maybe final line, 19 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, a block. And I'll tell you what, Christie has been a little bit of an X factor for the Mavs so far. Really have enjoyed what I've seen from him. Mavs are closing it out right now. Max Christie at the line, shooting free throws. It is going to be a Dallas Mavericks win today. Mavs have the day off tomorrow, but they will be playing on Monday night at home against the Sacramento Kings. Looking forward to that one. Again, Anthony Davis makes his debut today. The final stat line on Davis as the Mavs go up 112-103. Final stat line on Davis, 26 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 blocks, had a plus-minus of 9. Davis was incredible today. I mean, look, a second, I believe, only to Monte Ellis for most points in a Dallas Mavericks debut. Second only to Monte Ellis. He clearly, I think, would have surpassed that number. I think Monte Ellis had 32 in his Dallas Mavericks debut, and they traded for him way back when. But Anthony Davis goes for 26, probably would have cleared 32 if not for the abdominal injury. They're not calling it an abdominal injury at this point, calling it a lower body injury. I imagine it's just related to the last injury that he suffered. Look, PJ Washington also goes out with the sprained ankle. Mavs clearly a little bit unlucky today with the injury bug. Don't think either one of those injuries is going to be major. I think, in fact, they're probably going to just need a few games off, maybe somewhere between 3 to 5, and I'd imagine both players will probably be back. You've got to imagine that both injuries today, little bit precautionary, I should say. You're not trying to push Anthony Davis. You're not trying to push PJ Washington, especially in a game where at that point, the Mavericks had a little bit of a lead built up. Halftime, Mavs were up almost 20 points. No real reason to make PJ Washington push through that. I'd imagine probably a max of maybe I don't know, maybe 5 games for either player. I don't think it's going to be an extended absence beyond that. The Mavs schedule moving forward, we'll check it out. You got Sacramento on Monday night. No De'Aaron Fox. Not that Sacramento is a slouch, but you've got a Sacramento team that's just dealt with a little bit of roster shakeup themselves. Home game in that one. I wouldn't imagine we'll see PJ or AD on Monday night, but definitely think that we'll see a little bit of an absence from each player. I don't think you want to risk at this point Anthony Davis coming back too soon again and re-injuring that abdominal strain. I can't really think of anything else it would be beyond an abdominal strain with how he reacted, what he was clutching after the injury occurred. Total non-contact injury, by the way. But the Mavs showed you on Friday night, whenever it was, wasn't Friday night, it was Thursday night, sorry. The Mavs showed you on Thursday night they can play really quality basketball against good teams, even without Anthony Davis and PJ Washington. I mean, they didn't have either one of those players on Thursday night in the Garden, and they managed to get a win. So I'm not feeling overly nervous about the games going forward if AD does have to miss time. That's true. A really good point here on TikTok. What's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. Dub Boss 711. Love it. So we've got the All-Star weekend coming up here pretty quickly. I really feel like at this point, the Mavs are going to be just fine with the AD PJ Washington injuries. I know there's probably going to be a lot of gloom and doom on social media. See, we told you, AD, whatever, made of paper, whatever the disses are going to be. I don't really foresee anything being major coming out of these injuries. And then, like the point was made, All-Star weekend coming up. I really find it hard to believe that this is going to be anything that sets the Mavs back crazy. I think they're going to be able to stay afloat just fine while both of those guys come back and hopefully get fully healthy. Anthony Davis more so than PJ Washington, right? PJ Washington, ankle sprain, that's going to be all right. I don't think that there were anything positive coming up in terms of breaks or in terms of ligament or anything like that. I think just an ankle twist. He'll probably be back, I would say, after the All-Star break for sure. Let's look at the schedule. Let's look at the schedule and kind of go through the next several games for the Mavs. So you basically got 3 games to make it through until All-Star break. And I believe they're all home games. You've got the Kings coming up Monday night. And then you've got a back-to-back Wednesday, Thursday with the Warriors and the Heat. Warriors coming off of a loss to the Lakers. I think they play one more game before they play us. But we'll see how they transition with Jimmy Butler. And then you got the Heat. Obviously, they've got Hero, they've got Bam, they've got a number of dudes, but I'm sure that they're going to give the Mavs a good game as well, very well coached, but winnable games, I think, as I look at them, even if you don't have Anthony Davis. Just not going to surprise me if Anthony Davis and PJ are out until that All-Star break, which is fine. I don't think that you really have to worry a whole lot about those guys missing extended time. I think both of them are going to be back after All-Star break for sure. So let's talk through a few different things. So today, a lot of emotions after the Luka Doncic trade, outside the stadium, protests going on. Let's talk about it. You guys who have been following me, you kind of know where I stand, those of y'all that have watched some of the videos I put out this week. And I just want to be clear. Very, very sad and upset by the Luka Doncic trade myself when the news broke. I don't want to make anybody think twice on that. I was shocked when Luka Doncic was traded. And sad, like a grieving process is the great way to put it. Kyrie Irving said that after the game on Thursday in Boston. It is a grieving process. And like over the weekend, I think all of us just couldn't even believe that it was a real trade. Now, that being said, just the way that I process things, it took a few days, but you start understanding why the trade was made. And there's a few different reasons that we'll get into that I think you can point to. I'm not saying that anybody is going to be happy with the reasons. That's still really upset about the Luka Doncic trade. But I do think that there is some sense that you can talk into it. at least understanding why the front office made the move that they did. But my disposition now, you've got to move forward. The only way out is through. You've got to move forward. And today, I think you saw a glimpse of what Nico Harrison envisioned with Anthony Davis featured in this Mavs starting lineup. Mavs had a franchise record today in blocks. I think they had 19 blocks, 9 of them in the first half. Franchise record in blocks. That interior defense was outstanding. And this is exactly what Nico Harrison in the front office envisioned. Anthony Davis looked incredible. Yes, he goes out with an injury. But Anthony Davis looks incredible in this offense. Like, that was a seamless transition. I don't know if I've seen a more seamless transition for a player coming in with the trade than what I saw from Anthony Davis. I mean, the dude put up 24, 13, and I don't know what it was, 5 or 6 assists in the first half. Anthony Davis was on fire, and it looked like he'd been here the entire season. So my mentality on the trade, done with the moping, done with the crying, with the whining. I just don't want to do it anymore. And it's kind of a tired shtick for me on social media. I kind of wonder at some point, are people doing it just for clicks, doing it just for engagement because they know that going off about the Luka trade over and over again is naturally going to get engagement? I don't know. But it's getting old for me. I mean, do you think Luka and do you think AD are going to be bothered about this forever? No doubt Luka was affected. I think that we all can tell, even in the press conference that Luka did in LA, the dude was sad. He was visibly not totally into that press conference at all with Rob Pelinka. But I think that Luka is going to be just fine. I think he's going to enjoy living in LA, playing with LeBron. Just like you saw with AD. AD looked great today. AD even said vibes are up. Really excited about being here. I guess my point is, if the people directly affected by this trade are probably going to be totally fine in about a week's time, why do I need to spend any longer than a few days upset about this trade? I'll miss Luka. I'll definitely wonder what could have been. But here's my thing. A championship with Luka was never guaranteed. You can say it all you want. You can say that Luka was absolutely going to get a championship with the Mavs all you want. But there's no guarantee. Dirk got one championship. It was a magical run. It was not like we had a plethora of NBA Finals opportunities with Dirk. I don't know how many Luka would have had. And the reality is, if you sign Luka to a Supermax extension, right now, I don't know how many of y'all really understand the salary cap situation in the NBA. I don't want to talk down to anybody, but I'll give you the gist of it. So right now, there are 2 aprons in the salary cap. The second apron is at $189 million. So if you're over $189 million, there are some extremely prohibitive consequences for going over that second apron. It's almost like a hard cap. I know that this guy is a little polarizing, but I do catch snippets of Draymond Green's podcast. He was kind of explaining it, and I thought did a really great job of it. It is almost like a salary cap. If you do not go over that apron, a lot more flexibility is opened up. Luka would have been $70 million of that 189. Mavs fans, we know what it's like when Luka does not have help around him. I love Luka, but miss me with the BS of I'd rather lose for 10 years with Luka than win championships with AD. And it's not a guaranteed with AD either. I'm seeing that in the comments. I agree with you. It's not a guarantee with anybody. But miss me with the BS that you'd rather lose for the rest of Luka's career as long as he's on the team, and you'd rather not have championships with somebody else. At that point, you're not really a Mavs fan. You're not a true fan. And I've been very clear about my stance on that. As much as I love Luka Doncic and enjoyed cheering for him, I think that is absolutely preposterous that you'd rather be losing with Luka than winning championships with somebody else. I'm a Mavs fan first. I'll enjoy watching Luka and what he does with the Lakers. I don't wish Luka any success in terms of championships. That's the other thing I don't get. Any Mavs fans trying to be Lakers fans, saying that they're going to support the Lakers and Luka. I'm sorry. If you're supporting Luka on the Lakers, you're supporting the Lakers. I can't do it. I really don't know what Mavs fan would. True Mavs fan supporting the Lakers. Like, let's get real. Absolutely not. I mean, look, if Luka is playing somebody totally meaningless, I might be able to cheer for Luka to do well. I don't wish any ill will on Luka. It's not like I hate him or anything like that, but I'm not wishing Luka success in LA. And I don't know why you would if you were a true Mavs fan. I hope that he goes on to have a healthy, like, good, successful rest of his career, but I hope it's not at the expense of the Mavs. And you know what? With them being in the Western Conference, it might as well be. They're going to be battling, I'm sure, with Luka throughout the next decade. I'm not cheering for Luka to do awesome in LA for the Lakers. If Luka's doing awesome, LA's doing awesome. And that's the last thing that I want to see. I don't spend time thinking about the Lakers or really hating on them beyond just the allegiance that I have to the Mavs and an inability to root for the Los Angeles Lakers as a result. But I do not understand at all the people that are trying to be Lakers fans right now or pretending like they know the Lakers inside and out. You got Mavs people that have been following the Mavs and covering them, now saying that they're going to cover Luka Doncic because he's their favorite player, dedicate special time to watching Lakers games. You got to be kidding me. No, thank you. If the Mavs and Lakers are playing, I'll absolutely watch. If I got nothing else to do and the Lakers are on primetime playing somebody, I'll cheer for the other team. Like, there's not many teams that I am going to cheer for the Lakers against. I can't even think of one team in the NBA that I would probably cheer for the Lakers against. Like, even the Spurs against the Lakers, I'd probably cheer for the Spurs. I'd probably cheer for them. And anyone saying that the Mavs are not going to be a good team moving forward for the next at least 3 or 4 seasons, insane. Like, you're not watching the game. You know absolutely nothing about AD, his game, totally underselling the rest of the team if you think the Mavs are going to be terrible after making this trade. I think the Mavs have just as good of a shot with AD, with Kyrie right now, as what they had with Luka. I think that Luka is an outstanding player. Loved Luka Doncic. Did not envision them trading him. Did not want to see Luka Doncic get traded. But I'm not trying to be a crybaby for weeks on end about the Luka Doncic trade. Like, I don't know. I think it's pretty easy to see people's personalities come out in all this. Like, how long are you going to whine about the Luka Doncic trade if you're a Mavs fan? Like, how do you respond to actual real crises in life if you're still spending this much time concentrated on Nico Harrison and hating on the Mavericks front office? When are you going to get over? That's how I feel. It's a huge turnoff at this point. Anybody still whining and complaining about the trade, like, I want to mute you. It's old. It's done at this point. It's like the dude that got broken up with that's still talking about the ex, and it's been about 2 or 3 months. Like, that's how it feels. And that is way more serious. Breaking off a relationship is a lot more serious than Luka Doncic getting traded. Like, come on now. I just can't even tolerate it or stand it anymore. It makes me want to go the exact opposite way and try and actually defend the front office. I don't know. Anybody still going on about the trade? Like, and when I say that, let me clarify. Just whining. Like, just whining and complaining. Nah. Again, miss me with the I'd rather lose with Luka than win a championship with anybody else. It's getting old. Whatever. I don't even understand, bro. You're literally still talking about the trade. Yeah, as a reaction to everybody else still concentrated on it. I don't know. say whatever you want about that. I really don't understand the angle. Injury to AD. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to come with that today. The injury to AD, to me, is probably something that's going to be fine with some rest. I don't think he'll probably play in any of the games before the All-Star break. The Mavs got 3 games left before All-Star break. I think that he'll probably miss those games and then probably be back against New Orleans. That'd be fun. Little game against the Pelicans right after All-Star break. That's what I'm counting on at this point. So the injury, by the way, they're not really reporting what the injury was. The most specific that they got on the injury was lower body, but you kind of saw him going and clutching the stomach, the abdominal area. So I would imagine that he probably restrained the abdomen, but clearly I don't have any kind of insider source. I'm sure that they're going to come out with something after the game. Total non-contact injury, by the way. He was going to defend a drive in the paint, kind of shuffled over, and then you suddenly saw him kind of kneeling down, keeling over, holding his stomach, holding his gut area. I think some people thought he got racked, but it was pretty obvious as you watch replay. It was just a non-contact and probably re-aggravating that abdominal strain that he was out with before this game. And I think he had missed maybe a couple of games already with the Lakers. I think he missed 3 or 4. Look, I'd imagine they bring him back just after the All-Star break. Like at this point, you can survive this 3-game stretch. Kings, and then you've got Warriors, and then you've got Heat. I think the Mavs could probably go 2-1 in that stretch, even without AD, maybe even without PJ Washington. I don't know if they're going to go 3-0 against all 3 of those teams. It's tough to do, especially when you've got a back-to-back. Mavs play Wednesday, Mavs play Thursday, Golden State on Wednesday, Miami on Thursday. It's going to be tough to go 3-0 in this coming week, but I do think 2-1 is attainable. I think you can get a win against Sacramento, and then I think you can split the back-to-back Wednesday, Thursday. So AD probably not going to be back till after the All-Star break. No timetable at this point, but I do think it'll probably be at minimum a week and a half when the All-Star break is over. Maybe they hold him out a couple of weeks. I think a lot of it is going to depend on how the Mavs are playing. I don't think 0-3 is going to happen, by the way. I see that comment coming through on TikTok. See you. But I do think that you're going to see the Mavs probably bring AD back depending on how the next several games go. If they are 3-0 in that 3-game stretch next week, there may be a little less pressure. There may be a little less pressure to bring AD back against the Pelicans right after the All-Star break. Maybe you give him another game. Like looking at the schedule, you've got Pelicans on that Thursday, a week from this coming Thursday. So what, 10, 11 days away? Actually, not till Friday. So you've got a week from Friday. Then you play the Warriors on the road on the 23rd, and then you play the Lakers. That'll be a good one. You play the Lakers on Tuesday night. I would imagine worst case scenario, AD is back to play against the Lakers. Like I can't imagine AD is going to miss that game at Crypto against his old team. Luka clearly will probably be playing by then. I don't think Anthony Davis is going to miss an opportunity there on the 25th. So worst case scenario, like absolute worst case, I think he'll be back on the 25th. Mavs got a stud in Christie. Evan, what's good? Yeah, I was just talking about Christie. Over 15 points in his last 3 games. Kind of a throwaway asset for most Mavs fans in their eyes at the time of the trade. Like, who is Max Christie? And I got to admit, even I had to spend a little time looking up Max Christie. Wasn't familiar with his game. And I've become very familiar in the past 3 nights that Max Christie has played. 15 points in his apiece, I believe, last 2 games. And then I think he put up 19 or 20 tonight. Max Christie, outstanding game from him. Dude locks down some guys out there on the wing, too. That's what has impressed me about him. The defense of Max Christie. I believe he had a steal. Let's see. No steals tonight. Did have a block tonight. The plus minus, oddly enough, was -8. I think he was in on one of those crazy runs that the Rockets went on in the third quarter, brought down the plus minus a little bit, but 9 for 10 from the free throw line. I mean, Max Christie was aggressive tonight. driving in the paint, had 23 total points tonight. I absolutely agree. Mavs got a stud in Max Christie, no doubt. Best Rangers logo ever behind you. Yes, sir. Hey, go Texas Rangers. I'm glad spring training is right around the corner. Getting hyped for that. Mavs are going to hopefully hit a little stride right now. It's a good time to be a sports fan. Absolutely. Good time to be a DFW sports fan. Luka for Christie isn't exactly the best trade. Well, of course, we get the first rounder. We get Anthony Davis. It is kind of wild. Like, you do see, and you have seen a lot of people kind of downplaying Anthony Davis. Look, the injury today doesn't help. We're not going to skirt around it. The injury today does not help the case for Mavs fans that are upset about the trade. But Anthony Davis, 5-time All-Pro, 10-time All-Star, championship, Defensive Player of the Year. Like, the accolades are crazy for Anthony Davis. Crazy. He has got a ton of accolades and accomplishments in the NBA. Yes, he's 31, 32 years old. He's still got several good years of basketball left in him. Today's injury isn't something that's going to keep him out for any extended period. Like I said, worst case, I think he's back for the game against the Lakers in LA on the 25th. Worst case scenario. So for me, I think that the trade, as it plays out, I think we'll at least be able to understand a little bit better what the Mavs front office was thinking. I get it, Luka, generational talent. I go back to the second apron with the salary. I don't want to say cap, but with the salary cap situation in the NBA, like 189 million is the second apron, and then it becomes very prohibitive. Some of the consequences of going over that 189, you're paying Luka 70. You've got roughly 120 million left to fill out the roster. That's tough. You've got Luka taking up a solid third, a little over a third of your cap space. And I think Mavs fans, we know when Luka doesn't have help, it's still a phenomenal experience. You still get to watch a great player. But we've seen what Luka can do without help. Luka was losing to the Clippers without help. And it's rare for a star like Luka to be able to just totally have zero wingmen, zero help at all, and win a championship. Like LeBron back with Cleveland the first time around, you look at that Cleveland roster, they had some decent players. They didn't have any stars. LeBron was just that good. Luka might be able to do something like that. But of course, ultimately, Cleveland lost to the Spurs in that first NBA Finals that LeBron went through. And I foresee similar things with Luka unless the salary cap situation changes. If the Mavs would have signed him to a supermax, paid him $70+ million a year, you're going to have a tough time filling out the roster around him. You're going to have to get very, very fortunate in the draft. You're going to have to get free agents potentially willing to come to Dallas and take less. It's not impossible, but I can understand the dilemma. Like, you're paying Luka $70 million out of 190 before you hit that first apron. And a lot of teams are trying to stay below even the first apron. You've got 3 teams. I looked it up. 3 teams that are above the second apron right now: Minnesota, Boston, and Phoenix. And you look at Boston as being clearly the shining example there. But Boston has a lot of very quality role players. They have some great contracts that are set up. But Phoenix is a bit of a mess, in my opinion. Minnesota, down from last year. It's not, I don't think, something that we can really envision at this point. But the Mavs going over that second apron, or the Mavs giving Luka the $70 million, it would have been interesting to see what they would have been able to do. But I fear that the Mavs would have had a tough time putting pieces around Luka, paying him that much. Time will tell what Luka is able to do in LA. And clearly they're not going to be able to pay him $70 million in LA. That was something that was reserved for the Mavs and Mavs only, having that capability. But I'm curious to see what Luka does, and I'm curious to see what this new look Mavs team does as well. 80 up for a Supermax after next season. I don't think that they have any choice but to give AD the Supermax right now. Look, I do understand the comment. Appreciate this, by the way. You're cutting your window in half. I totally agree. Like, you're trading 25 years for 31. Like, it's a 6-year difference. But I don't know if we can just slam dunk say Luka is going to be a dominant player all the way up to 35. Like, you act like it's a 10-year window. We don't know how well Luka's body's going to hold up. I think LeBron James is a crazy specimen at 35 years old. LeBron was still dominating the league, and he's doing it over 40. I don't know how long Luka's going to play. Luka's actually been pretty adamant he's not going to play as long as LeBron. $350 million is a lot of bread. I appreciate that comment, June. It is a lot, and I understand why the team was a little bit hesitant. I still don't love the trade. It would have been interesting to see what they could have done paying Luka and keeping him. My fear, again, is if you pay Luka $70 million, the second apron is at $190. You're already spending $70 million of $190 on one player. How are you going to build the rest of the roster around Luka? Kyrie obviously is getting up there in age. Kyrie demands a pretty penny at this point. Like, Kyrie is still getting paid well. And then you've got other guys that you got to bring in. You paid Klay Thompson really well also. And now you've got to fill out the rest of the roster. You're already dedicating a bunch of money to Luka, Kai, and Klay. You don't have a lot of options unless you draft extremely well. And I mean extremely well. So I understand the hesitancy of the front office to give it all over to Luka. And then I will say this. We've been hearing about Luka's bad conditioning, bad defense for the past 3 or 4 years. So the people that are saying this is a hit piece against Luka, smear campaign, they've been saying this about Luka, right? They've been saying this about Luka. It didn't come out of nowhere. This isn't something that the front office just pushed out last week to make Luka look bad. Literally everybody in the NBA has been complaining about Luka Doncic, how he plays himself into shape, his conditioning's bad. It's a narrative literally every single year about Luka. So the people that are pretending that this is suddenly just something manufactured by the front office to make them look better, this has been a narrative with Luka forever. So I don't understand the people trying to accuse the front office of generating a narrative. This has been the narrative about Luka. And so it's not out of left field, but could it possibly be overblown? I think there is a situation where, yeah, maybe it is a little bit more. Maybe there's a little bit hyperbole there, but I don't think that it's totally not true. It wouldn't be a narrative this deep into his career, literally probably the past 3 or 4 off seasons. And I think those of y'all that watched the finals last year can validate this. Luka was getting absolutely fried in the media in that NBA Finals for what he did or didn't do. I know a lot of people blame Kyrie. He didn't come to play in certain games, and that is true. But you watch Luka get cooked basically all series long defensively. The complaining about the officiating, it was loud. Like, these were narratives that were in place already. I've said it all week long. I don't know what the alternative was if the front office is really sitting Luka down and wanting him to make these changes, and it's either just not getting done or Luka's hesitant to do it for whatever reason. It does put the front office in a tough spot. I don't know how well Luka would have held up over the next 10 years. Maybe he plays the next 10 years totally healthy, but Luka himself has said he's not trying to play as long as LeBron. He's not trying to play as long as LBJ. So I don't really know what's going on with some people pretending like Luka and this conditioning thing just came out of nowhere. $350 million is a ton of money to be investing in a player that does not have the same work ethic as a guy like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, guys that have been lauded for the killer mentality. I know that Luka clearly gets on the court and can dominate a game at any time. I can understand why the front office would be hesitant to give $70 million. He's gifted. He's great. I think he's one of the top 3 best players in the league right now in terms of scoring. In terms of defense, absolutely not. He's probably one of the worst players. But Luka Doncic, the trade, it's going to be talked about for a long, long time. For me, as a Mavs fan, I'm ready to move forward. Support AD, support Kyrie, Max Christie. the rest of the squad. I think the Mavs have something here. And if they win a championship this year or next year, even if they have a great run this year, I think it's going to be harder and harder to speak against it. We'll see how Luka Doncic's career plays out in LA. I don't see him leaving LA, by the way. I know a lot of people have kind of thrown around, maybe he won't re-sign with them at the end of next season. I find that hard to believe. I think Luka is probably going to be a Laker for a long, long time. But I'm curious. Time will tell. Let me keep going here. Appreciate it. People don't really watch the Mavs. They chime in now 100%. 100% you've got people not really watching the Mavs and suddenly chiming in with strong opinions. I totally get it. Totally get it. Let me go to YouTube here. Scott, what's good, man? Mavs win. Great win today. Great win today. Absolutely. Christy turns 22 on Monday. Is that right? By the way, that reminds me, happy birthday to Klay Thompson. Killer Klay. And he had a nice game on Thursday night. That was incredible from Klay in the Garden. Only played 22 minutes tonight, 13 points total. Not sure if that was just matchups or just how the game was going, why Klay wasn't on the court a little bit more. 6 for 14. It's not like he was absolutely terrible tonight. But I got to think with Klay, as he gets up there in years, they're trying to pace things out a little bit. But Klay Thompson, happy birthday, man. Absolutely. CJ not getting paid by the Mavs. In fact, I've said a number of times, did not love the trade initially. Still not in love with the trade now. But as much as I can, it's time to move on. I'm not going to be the one still whining about this trade 2 or 3 weeks later. And I know some Mavs fans are going to dedicate the rest of the season to doing that. It's just not what I want to do. Not my personality, not my DNA. Let's move forward. Let's see what we got with AD and Kai. Let's enjoy it. Christie, 23 points tonight. He is a ball player. I love what I've seen from Max Christie so far. And I know Lakers fans, I was going back and forth with some Lakers fans when the trade went down, and a lot of people were telling me, look out for Max Christie. Like, a lot of people are sleeping on him right now. And I have to agree with those assertions at this point. Like, I have been very impressed with Max Christie so far. Very impressed. Let me keep going. Great win, but also a big loss. Let me see if there's any AD news coming out so far. I don't know. I haven't heard anything, and some people just try to troll it in the chat. I've already seen AD out for the season a couple of times in the chat. I ain't going there yet, but let me see what we got. Let's see. Non-contact injury. Nothing crazy here so far. Sporting News put out a tweet and just says non-contact injury. I don't know if we're going to find out a whole lot at this point. Like I said, I'd imagine he's probably out until after the All-Star break. Worst case, he'll be back on the 25th in about 2.5 weeks, I think, for that Lakers game. I find it really hard to believe that he's going to miss an opportunity to go back to LA and play. So we'll keep going. He got more for an old Butler. I don't think that at all. I don't think that the Heat got more than what the Mavs got. The Mavs got an all-NBA defensive player of the year type. The Heat did not get better for Jimmy Butler than what the Mavs got for AD. Would totally disagree with that at this point. I think a lot of people aren't thinking about it the right way. Personally, the way I ration it, like, how much would AD go for right now? How many first-round picks would you get for Anthony Davis? How many first-round picks would you get for AD at this point? 2, probably 3. I think you'd probably get something close to 3. Maybe you'd get a throwaway player or 2. I think Anthony Davis is probably going for 3 draft picks. So you get 3 draft picks for AD, and you get the 1 additional. I think you can think about it a number of different ways, but the way that I rationalize it, AD's worth 3 draft picks. You got a first-round draft pick in addition to AD, and you got Max Christie, who was a second-round pick, but's playing like a first-round pick at this point. I think the Mavs did a lot better than what people are giving them credit for. I think they could have gotten more, but who knows how it would have gone. And who knows what teams would have been willing to give it, because I think a very valid point in all this is Luka's not signing with anybody. Like Luka is not signing with any team. He's only going to sign with probably a specific set of teams, maybe that you could count on one hand. And so, with that in mind, teams are not going to give as much for 1.5 years of Luka before he becomes an unrestricted free agent. And I don't think that that played into this trade a lot. I kind of think that Nico wanted AD, the front office did not want to pay the supermax, and they just wanted to get a deal done. And I do think the bidding war angle, like a lot of people, why didn't you open up a bidding war? I just don't think that would have gone well for Dallas at all. You would have had a very disgruntled Luka Doncic. Why am I getting traded? It would have been a lot more drama starting a bidding war. The team probably would have been affected as well. I think that the way that they handled it actually probably was the best way. I don't think from a personal standpoint with Luka, clearly you want to try and do Luka a little bit better than you did, but let's be real about the alternative. You turn it into a big media frenzy bidding war, it would not have gone well for the team. Maybe you could have ultimately gotten a little bit better in terms of the return. I said when I first heard about the trade and went live, I think that getting 2 first-round picks would have been ideal. If they could have gotten both of the Lakers' first-round picks, they only had 2 available. The Mavs got one of the 2. If you could have gotten AD, Christie, and those 2 first-round picks, not just the 1, I think that's a lot better of a trade. A lot better of a trade than what they got right now. I don't grade this trade an F. I'd probably give it a barely passing grade, like a C-. In the short term, I definitely think it gets a high rank, B+, A range, short term. Long term, though, I do think that the Mavs hampered themselves a little bit. I do think maybe you ultimately do end up trading Luka Doncic at some point. But right now, the timing is interesting. Yes, the Supermax and everything going down with the Supermax this summer, maybe you just needed to get ahead of the 8 ball. I feel like you could have at least let it play out this year with Luka, though, and just seen how this year worked. But behind the scenes, we don't know. We don't know how it was going in the Mavs, in the locker room, in conversations with the front office, the coach, the team, everything. We're not privy to that. But I do think it had to have been a fairly sizable level of bad behind the scenes for them to want to trade Luka at this point. And maybe we'll get a documentary on it at some point and a lot more light will be shed on the situation. I don't think we're going to get that anytime soon. But I think there had to be a lot going on behind the scenes for the front office to be this desperate, and the ownership, because I don't think the ownership gets enough flack for this thing too. This had to be coming from ownership too. Nico didn't act alone. Anybody who keeps saying Nico acted alone, the ownership doesn't just not sign off on this trade and Nico just totally does whatever he wants. The ownership had to have been saying, make the deal. Had to have been saying, make the deal. Now, look, I think AD out for a couple of weeks at minimum. I know some questions are going to be out there. If he gets hurt again, Luka Doncic could get hurt again at this point. I'm not going to play the game of if AD gets hurt this season, it's a failure. Luka could easily be hurt again this season. He has been injured over the past 2 years and played injured. And one of the things we love about Luka is that he does fight through a ton of injuries. But I am not going to play the game with AD getting injured. Anybody can get injured at any time in this game. It's not anything that's special or specific to one player. Injuries happen. So for me, not even going to go there. AD is not going to be out for an extended amount of time. But at this point, anybody that's like just chomping at the bit to say they were right because AD gets hurt, anybody can get hurt at any time in this game. Anybody. And Luka, we'll see what happens with him. We'll see if the calf fully heals up and he's good to go. Wish him nothing but the best in that area, by the way. But let's not pretend like Luka is the epitome of health. We have seen Luka over the past 2 seasons deal with a number of injuries, play through injuries. I think, in fact, probably some of the injuries that he suffered in the postseason run last year were a reason why the finals performance, the defense was a little subpar. I think that injuries are something that Luka is probably going to have to deal with throughout his career as well. So, not even going to go there with AD. He's not going to be out for an extended period of time, I wouldn't guess. But I know some fans, some people out there, real quick on the keyboard when AD went down with the injury. Real quick. And that's just crazy to me. Like, if Luka goes down with an injury in his debut on Monday, the last thing I'm going to be doing is going on X, whatever, going on social and championing Luka being injury prone, Luka being out of shape, whatever. So for me, not even going to play that game. Let me keep going. His defense wasn't good because he was tired from putting the team on his back. He did put the team on his back, but anybody trying to pretend like Luka, regardless of putting the team on his back, is a great defender is not watching the game. I just saw something come across my screen a little bit. Brad Townsend, one of the Mavs beat writers, said Anthony Davis is taking questions at Luka Doncic's old locker. That's a little awkward. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. Anthony Davis taking questions at Luka's old locker. I mean, look, they probably have got to do something. Otherwise, you got to play musical chairs with all the lockers in there. But that is a little awkward when you just put it that way. And you keep going. Mavs are, I love this. This is like, y'all got to get your own content here. How much are the Mavs paying you to say this? Clearly, we got recycled commentary going on here. Y'all got to get your own content. Mavs aren't paying me anything. I'm just a sane Mavs fan that actually wants to move on and isn't about to whine and complain for the next 2-3 weeks or 2-3 months, because I know some of y'all probably about to whine about this trade for the rest of this season. I'm just not about that. Like, I'd rather cheer on AD. I'd rather cheer on the rest of the team than be whining about Luka for the next 2 months. At this point, that's my mentality. I don't think that it was an awesome trade for the Mavs. Was not pleased when the trade went through. I can see the Mavericks side in all this and why they were hesitant to give Luka the Supermax. I do think that they shaved off a little bit of their window because Luka is, I think, going to be a great player in this league for at least the next 8-9 years. You get to 35, I don't know if Luka is going to be the same player at 35. I don't even know if Luka is going to play that long. Luka hadn't even really committed to like this longevity LeBron James style career. In fact, he said, I'm not playing as long as LeBron. I don't even know. By the way, appreciate all the gifts and thanks for the follows. Thank you for everybody supporting. Love the comments. I'll try and get to them as much as I can. AD is a beast. I totally agree. Like, you watched AD seamlessly transition into this Mavericks offense. It was a beautiful thing to see. Beautiful thing to see. Keep going. Let's go to this. You said it. Luka plays through injuries. When AD gets injured, he doesn't miss a significant time. Yeah, look, Luka definitely played through injuries last year. I think anybody could see that. AD, though, has been healthy the past 2 seasons. He got a bad rap in the beginning stages of his career and even into his time with the Lakers. But the last 2 seasons, AD has been good. Yeah, missed games here or there, sure. And he's going to miss some more games with this abdominal strain that keeps bugging him. But AD has been on the court the last 2 years. You hope that that continues. No doubt. Yeah, I can't sit around and just pretend like there's absolutely no doubt that Luka Doncic would have won the Mavs a championship. I'd like to think that, just like I always like to think that Dirk would win it all. And look, if Dirk would never have won one, Dirk would still go down as one of the greatest players in NBA history. And I think Mavs fans would have still all appreciated the journey. And I know that that's how a lot of people feel with Luka. I'm not going to sit around here and say, though, I'd rather lose with Luka than win championships. I don't get that mentality at all. Like, I love Luka, love the 7 years that he spent in a Dallas Mavericks uniform. They were awesome. But I'm not trying to sit around and say I'd rather lose with Luka than watch my team hoist a trophy. And it feels like you're not really a fan of the Mavs, or you really don't care that much about the Mavs if you feel otherwise. Let me keep going. Comments, appreciate it. Sell the team. There were some good chants that I heard. There was one, it's on the tip of my tongue. It involved Luka being fat. I think it was like, he's not fat, bring him back, I think was the chant that I heard. It was something like that. He's not fat, bring him back. It was something like that. I don't know. There were some corny ones in there. Like, I don't know how anybody would want to waste their time going down to a protest like that. In my opinion, protests are a pretty big waste of time when it comes to sports. Like, maybe other societal issues I can go with you on to an extent. But by and large, I'm not trying to waste my time on a beautiful Saturday afternoon protesting the Luka Doncic trade down at AAC. Like, no, thank you. It would take a lot more egregious action for me to even remotely consider going down, making a sign, and protesting at the American Airlines Center. Paying to go watch the Mavs play? Sure. And I was actually glad. There was like a lot going on social media. Maybe it's just the people I follow who are like telling Mavs fans to wear yellow to support Luka Doncic. Again, let me go back to what I said at the beginning of the show. If you ever put on willingly yellow and purple, any kind of Lakers gear, you are not a real fan. You're not. I would never put on a Lakers jersey. You wouldn't catch me dead in a Luka Doncic Lakers jersey. Ever. I don't get that at all. So I'm glad to see, as I looked around the arena, that we weren't making the AAC yellow and purple to support Luka. Like, just yuck. Just no. Absolutely no. All right, let me keep going. Would I ever wear a Kobe? No, I wouldn't. I respect the hell out of Kobe. Like, I love Kobe and everything he meant for the game. Like, I could watch Kobe highlights forever. Love Kobe. And Kobe was one of those players that just transcended the game. Like Michael Jordan, I know he created some Bulls fans along his run. Most NBA fans, most basketball fans, even if you were the biggest Bulls hater, you can appreciate Michael Jordan and his greatness. Same thing with Kobe, but I'm not trying to wear a Kobe jersey. No, absolutely not. All right, let me keep going. Let's see. The people want to hear a Duval. That's awesome. I can't even say it the right way anymore, because the way that the new Jags coach says it is just like somehow becoming iconic. I feel like I feel like if you're a Jags fan, you've got to say it the Liam Cohen way at this point. Like, forget the old way. Just fully lean into the way that Liam Cohen said it at the presser. Like, seriously, just fully lean into it. If you're a Jags fan, lean into it. Forget the old way that you said Duval. Forget it. Lean into Liam Cohen, please. All right, y'all. Hey, thanks for hanging out. Shoot, we've already been going almost an hour. That's what's up. Any AD news yet? And I'm not talking about the people trolling saying he's out for the season. I don't need to hear from you. But I'm trying to figure this out. What is the update? I'm sure he took questions. He did take questions. I saw that. I don't know, though, if he gave any kind of status update. Let's see. Still nothing yet. I don't know. Y'all keep me posted. The real ones, keep me posted. Re-injured the groin area. Yeah, I'm sure he is out like indefinitely, meaning like there's no timetable, but I'm sure it's going to be All-Star break at minimum, probably back for that 25th game against Luka Doncic and the Lakers. Mount a chip this season? That is the plan. That's the plan. If the Mavs win a chip in the next 2 or 3 years, it's going to make the Luka Doncic trade a lot easier to swallow. I don't feel like the Mavs were probably going to get multiple championships with Luka. I think anything and anybody saying differently, very optimistic of you. I appreciate the glass half full mentality to the max. I don't think that the Mavs were getting more than one championship with Luka. And look, I'm a diehard Dallas Mavericks fan, and I can be real about that. I don't think Mavs were going to be getting any more than one. I think two would have been incredible, close to miraculous. I think one was possible. I don't think the Mavs were getting more than that. So I do think in the next 10 years, if the Mavs can win one championship with AD and Kyrie, and we'll see what they do in the offseason as well, I think it's pretty close to a worth it trade to me. You don't win any championships, fine. You'll always wonder what would have been. And if you watch Luka win a championship with the Lakers, it's going to sting. Like that will sting it for me more than anything, is if Luka goes and wins a championship with the Lakers. I might have to go a little bit more the other way if that happens. I don't know. Not sure what the Lakers are going to do this year. It'll be interesting to see how Luka and LeBron and Mark Williams mesh together. If Luka wins it all, that I think would be worst case scenario for Nico Harrison, Dallas Mavs fans, the front office, ownership, all that. I personally, though, I do think that Luka and LeBron are going to have some growing pains. I think that they're two smart enough, cerebral players to figure it out. But I really have my hesitations on whether or not Luka is going to come in like AD did today and the Lakers are just going to kill it. I do think it's going to look a little bit like what it did with Kyrie and Luka, which you probably remember. When they first started playing, it was kind of that, who's going to take the ball? You take the ball. No, you take the ball. I can't remember what the game was, but y'all remember maybe those of y'all that are diehards like me, that game where it came down to like the last second shot and the Mavs like had to like chunk something up. This is right after they got Kyrie. And it was like Luka, Kyrie, they were like passing back and forth to each other. And then they got like some crappy look at the end that didn't work out. I feel like it's going to be a little bit like that with LeBron and Luka to start. Not to say that they can't get better as time goes on, but I do feel like they're going to have some growing pains. We'll see. But that would be worst case scenario, is Luka and the Lakers win a championship this year or next year. Worst case scenario. Yeah, this is my mentality 100 here. Appreciate the comment. As for me, appreciate you. So the comment says, by the way, for all my people on TikTok, I didn't like the trade, but it's done now. I'm supporting my team, Mavs for life. This is exactly how I feel. And so because I'm supporting the team, I'm going to try and find the positives in the trade as much as possible. I'll go back all day long to, I wouldn't have made the trade. I would have found some other way to get creative, regardless of the $70 million to Luka Doncic every year with the Supermax. I would have given it a shot before I just burned it down. I can see what Nico Harrison was going for, making the Dallas Mavericks into one of, if not the best defensive team in the league. But I think that giving up Luka and not getting 2 first-round picks, only getting the one, it leaves a bad taste in people's mouth. But I don't personally want to sit around, whine, complain for the next 2 months. I'm cheering for things to go well in Dallas. I hope they do. Best to AD. Hopefully it's a speedy recovery. Same thing for PJ Washington. We keep going. I don't get this at all. 35 years cheering for the Mavs and you're done with them. Like for me, I don't get that at all. If you're willing to give up on your team because of a bad trade, like were you even really a fan? I hate to say it, but I believe that's true. If you're giving up on the Mavs because you thought they made a bad trade, every franchise in the history of sports has made a bad trade before. Maybe you can argue not this bad, but I'm not going to stop supporting the team because they made a trade that I don't like. It goes deeper than that. Grew up watching the Mavs. There's way too many memories. Dirk, like for me, did Dirk quit working for the team when the trade happened? Like to me, this is like the primo example. Dirk didn't quit the team as a special advisor when they traded Luka. Guy's still around. He's not quitting because it runs deeper than Luka. And so for me, that's all I need to know. If Dirk is still in his special advisor role, still supporting the Mavericks, I think I can do the same. It runs a little bit deeper than Luka Doncic. Whatever, it doesn't matter if you want to even take the argument that it's Dirk's job. Dirk doesn't need this job. That is the most asinine argument I've ever heard. Dirk's just doing it because he works there. He doesn't have to work there. Dude could literally quit at any moment. Like, that makes zero sense. I got a couple of people trying to argue with me. Well, Dirk has to support the team because he works for the team. You think Dirk needs to work for the Mavs? Some people you just can't help. Like, some people you just cannot help. Dirk still supporting the team. Guarantee you're still going to see Dirk supporting the franchise. And it's not dependent on whether or not Luka Doncic is on the team. That is all that I need to know. If it's good enough for Dirk to hang around, it's good enough for me. Period. Let me keep going. Appreciate all the follows. Appreciate the gifts, by the way. Thank you so much. Hey, if you know a Mavs fan, you know somebody that loves NBA, we are going to go live after certain Mavs games. I don't know if we're going to go live after every single Mavs game moving forward. We've done that with the Rangers before. It might be a little too much for me to commit to, but I definitely want to go live after some of the big games. We'll for sure go live after the game on Wednesday against Golden State, maybe on Thursday since it's right before All-Star break. We'll see what happens. It depends on the game, depends on my schedule, but I'd like to try and go live after more Mavs games, talking it up with y'all, especially as Anthony Davis comes back and the whole team really starts meshing and gelling, which I think that they will. Man, there's a lot to be excited about as you watched AD's debut today. A ton to be excited about. Absolutely. Let me keep going. I absolutely like that defense. Dirty Cowboy, love that defense. Love that defense. Look, I know there's going to be a lot of haters on the Anthony Davis injury today. I don't cheer for anybody to get injured, and it can happen to anyone. So, look, if Luka gets hurt in one of his games with the Lakers, I'm not trying to hop on X, hop on YouTube, get on the live, and proclaim that I was right about Luka and the conditioning and the injuries. It happens to anybody. It can happen to anybody. We keep going. So as we move forward, we'll see how Anthony Davis turns out with this injury. My guess after the All-Star break, maybe worst case, we see him for the Laker game on the 25th in LA. I'm sure he'll want to be back for that game, no doubt. And that is going to be theater, absolute theater. Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis, Lakers versus Mavs in LA. I cannot wait for that game. I hope both players are playing. I hope AD is better for that, because we need to see both of those players just going at their former teams. Hope the Mavs get the better of it. I know that the Lakers come visit the Mavs like in April, I want to say. So we'll see what happens with AD. You've got Kings, Warriors, Heat to finish out all home games before the Mavs have a break for All-Star weekend. I think the Mavs can go 2-1 down that stretch. I think they can get a win on Monday, and I think you win at least one of two against the Warriors and the Heat. Tough to win back-to-back. So I'm going 2-1 the rest of the way before the All-Star break, and that is going to be a great place for the Mavs to be. Let's look at the standings right now. Got a fortuitous outcome last night. I don't know how many of y'all watch other games. That Spurs-Hornets game was crazy. I thought De'Aaron Fox had won the game with that three-pointer. He just let that go a little bit too late, and the Hornets are able to win. That really does help out the Mavs and all the teams that are in the play-in right now, Warriors especially. So the Mavs are now at the 8th spot, 1 game behind the Clippers. They are 1.5 games behind the T-Wolves in the 6th spot. And they've got the Phoenix Suns a game behind them. The Kings are 2 games behind them. So this is actually a game on Monday night that would be wise for the Mavericks to take advantage of and win. Create a little separation between them and the Kings. The Warriors are even with the Kings at 25 and 26. The Spurs are 18.5 games out of first place in the conference. 2 games behind the Warriors and the Kings to get into the play-in. So they have 4 games in between Spurs and Mavericks at this point. It's going to be tight. It's going to be a tight finish. I'd love to see the Mavs finish 30-26 before the All-Star break. That would be huge. 30-26, I think, would be a great way to go out. And then you get the Pelicans first off out of the All-Star break. That should be a win, whether you have Anthony Davis or not. Pelicans are 12-39 right now. Looking at the rest of the schedule, you got, again, Warriors, Lakers. You got the Hornets, the Bucks, the Kings again, the Bucks again, and then the Grizzlies. That is roughly the next 10 to 12 games for the Mavs. So, look, they've got some tough teams in the mix, no doubt, in the next 10 to 12, but I absolutely think when you get Anthony Davis back, when everybody's healthy, you are going to see this Mavs team really start to take off. I don't think the Mavs are going to be a play-in team. I really think that the Mavs are going to get into the top 6 and not have to even worry about that play-in tournament. I hope that they don't leave it up to chance in that play-in tournament. Anything can happen. You have seen some teams sneak in and get out of the play-in tournament that were lower seeds, but I'd just rather not even deal with it. I think the Mavs are good enough to get into the top 6, and that should 100% be the goal moving forward. And I think it's very attainable. You've got the Minnesota Timberwolves a game and a half ahead of you, very much in reach. Lakers are about 4 games ahead, and they have not played as many games as the Mavs. Mavs have played about 4 more games than the Lakers. So we shall see. In the Rockets' 6-game losing streak, we'll see if the Rockets hang around. I was really, really surprised to see 5-game losing streak going into this one. Rockets 32-14 at one point, now 32-20. I don't know if the Rockets are going to have that staying power that's needed to stay in the top 6. I think they are a great young squad. I really liked what I saw from Houston tonight. Hadn't really watched a ton of Houston Rocket basketball, but really think that they have got some great players. I feel like they are going to have to weather this storm a little bit. I think they'll for sure be in the top 10, but I just wonder, are they going to be able to maintain that top 6 position? Time will tell. We keep going. Am I crazy if I say I'd love OKC first round? I wouldn't be scared of that. The Mavs, I think, match up pretty well with OKC, and they're in OKC's head. Like, they are in OKC's head right now. I would not be afraid of an OKC matchup. I might be afraid of other matchups. I would not be afraid of that one. I haven't really thought about it. I think the Mavs, when fully healthy, can match up with just about any team in the West. So I'm not really afraid of anybody. I definitely wouldn't be afraid of seeing OKC in the first round. AD posting up LeBron would 100% be must-see TV. It will be must-see TV, no doubt. You are going to see AD posting up LeBron. You are probably going to see AD on Luka at some point. It's going to be great theater on the 25th, Tuesday night TNT. I can't wait for that game. Win or loss, I cannot wait for that game. All right, y'all. We're going to start bringing this to a close. Let me go back to the YouTube comments. No update right now on the AD injury. I think re-injured the abdominal strain. I don't think that's rocket science, but I would imagine he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. Probably going to be out at minimum until after the All-Star break. I think depending on how the Mavs do, they might give him a little more time. Like if you see the Mavs go 2-1 this week before the All-Star break, or it would be amazing if they go 3-0 this week and win all 3 home games, you might see them be a little bit more cautious bringing AD back. We'll see. I really don't know. No updates. I'll refresh the Google search here and see what we got. Doesn't look like there's really anything of note at this point. Just non-contact injury. Oh, here's a quote 1 minute ago from the Stein line. Anthony Davis says he felt a little spasm with his previous abdomen injury and said it's nothing serious. So felt a little spasm, felt it tighten up a little bit, but nothing serious. From AD's mouth right there. There's the update for you. Here we keep going. Let me see what else we got. Let's see. What's good, man? Berenstain Bears. Bad habit. Appreciate you. Hey, thank you for coming to bat on this little one. The comment, by the way, I wish I could get comments for y'all on YouTube to TikTok, but haven't been able to figure out how to make them all integrate. That's why, by the way, y'all see me looking here, looking there, looking everywhere. Try and mix it up as much as I can between the cameras. But this is also my sentiment. Like, hate the front office all you want, right? But not being a fan because of the front office and the Luka trade, it's kind of insane to me. Kind of insane to me. Season ticket holder in the 80s. That's crazy. I did not know that. Season ticket holder in the 80s. You're a real one. That's an OG fan right there. Season ticket holder in the 80s. My man. Man, that is awesome. See, I'm a big fan, though. And look, I know that not every Mavs fan is a Texas Rangers fan, but look, the Texas Rangers went through it for years, had never won a World Series, finally won it in 2023. It made it all the more special. Like, there's a part of being a fan, like, you got to go through some bad times, and it's way more special. It's just like when you play sports, like, you go through failures. There's ups and downs in your playing career. I was blessed to be able to be on a lot of awesome teams growing up, played college baseball at a super small school, nothing notable or anything like that. But I love the journey. I love the fall, the rise, the ups, the downs, hills, valleys, whatever you want to call it. And I think as a fan, it makes it more special. Like, we're going to look back on this trade, maybe not love it, maybe still hate it 20 years, 25 years from now. But it's a part of the Mavs history. It's a part of being a fan. And I'm not going to give up on the team that I've loved since I was a kid because of the front office, because of Nico Harrison. Like, you're giving way too much power to people that you don't even know. I don't know. If Chris Young tomorrow traded Corey Seager, I would absolutely hate it. I would still be a Rangers fan. 1,000,000% would still be a Rangers fan regardless. Absolutely. Appreciate the sub, by the way. Thank you. I know I've said it a few times, but I can't be grateful enough. Thank you for the people that have followed along while we're live. Hey, any fan is welcome. Like, any fan is welcome. I know that we get a number of different people in the chat. Some people just straight up trolling, but literally, we just like talking ball here. Anybody is welcome from any fan allegiance, from any team. I really don't care. I'm happy to talk about just about any team eventually. Y'all kind of see the format. I have my big leads. I have my points that I like to make, but I always try and scroll comments, make sure that I get to as many people as I can. Got to sift through a little bit of the nonsense, but you know what I mean. Dev, don't give up, man. Don't give up, Dev. Come on, man. Seriously. Nah, I can't do it. I just can't rock with the people giving up on the Mavs. Be a true fan. Be a diehard. You can get past this. The Mavs are going to be all right. They've got AD. They've got Kyrie, Klay Thompson, Max Christie. Looks like he's going to have a bright future. Like, seriously. I really feel like you got to stick with it. It's all a part of the journey of being a fan. I don't like the trade either. I can't say that enough times because I know people are going to pin it down on me like I'm in full support of the trade. No. Don't love the trade, but I'm going to try and be glass half full. Those of y'all that have been following along for a while, you know that's how I roll. I'm not trying to be negative for all eternity, especially about this trade, especially about Nico Harrison, dudes that I don't even know. Surely not wasting my time going down to a protest at AAC on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. There's about a million other things I'd rather be doing. I'll tell you what I enjoyed, going and actually watching AD make his debut. That was phenomenal. I did see a funny point about the protest. So how many of those people at the protest actually went in, paid real money, and went and watched the Mavs afterwards? Like, come on. If you're at the protest, you can't in good conscience then go into the game, right? Right? Like, I would think that would be a little bit hypocritical. You're at the protest, but then you go into the game. Like, I wonder if anybody did any homework on that. That would be hilarious. If there were some people protesting and then they went ahead and bought tickets for the game and then went and enjoyed AD's debut. That would be pretty funny to me. Let me keep going. Appreciate all y'all. Thank you so much. So let's see what happens with AD. I may be back Monday night after the game it might be fun. I'll tell you what, in a weird way, I felt like my appreciation and curiosity and interest in this season was kind of stagnating a little bit with Luka being out. And then we had a number of other starters out. I kind of feel like there was new life injected into my interest in this season. Like, I always am going to be a fan, but with this trade, I'm kind of suddenly more interested for whatever reason. I know that we all handle things differently. I just find myself wanting to support the team even more at this point. And maybe it's because of the negativity and me just wanting to kind of be oppositionist, but I feel myself supporting the team and wanting to tune in even more to Mavs games at this point. Like, when a bunch of people or when a majority of people are going one way, it's kind of my personality. I want to play devil's advocate and go the other way. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. So I'm a little bit more intrigued about this Mavs season now. Got a little renewed energy being a fan this year of the Dallas Mavericks. So maybe we'll be back Monday after the game. Maybe we'll be back then. Man, the Reunion Arena OG season ticket holders, though. I did get to watch one game in Reunion Arena. And I want to tell a real quick story, little story time here. So when I was really, really young, probably grade school, we moved to Texas. My family did. Born in St. Louis, lived there for a few years. When I was pretty young, moved to Texas and didn't really have a whole lot of allegiances. I liked the Cardinals a little bit because, of course, St. Louis, that's the only pro team. The Rams were there in the late 90s, the football team. So I was there when they won the Super Bowl. I was, like I said, real young kid. But at that point, when I moved to Texas, I didn't really have an NBA team. And Mark Cuban had just bought the Dallas Mavericks. And my dad, kind of being a little silly, my dad is super outgoing, loves making connections with people. Mark Cuban was actually taking emails from fans. And so Mark Cuban was responding to these emails as well. Or, maybe he had some help. I don't know. But my dad sent him an email. Hey, we just moved, from St. Louis. We don't really have an NBA team. Would love to come out to a Mavs game soon. Looking forward to supporting Dallas, all that kind of stuff. Just like a friendly email, whatever. And Mark Cuban actually responded to my dad's email and said, hey, we'll have 2 tickets ready to go for you at will call. Talk with my receptionist, talk with my secretary, and we'll get you 2 tickets for a game of your choice. And so my dad and I, we picked out a game. We went to our very first game at Reunion Arena. Thanks to Mark Cuban. This is literally like the first year I want to say he bought the team. And regardless, I know Mark Cuban's a little bit polarizing these days, but I'll always be appreciative of Mark Cuban for that. And I'll forever be a Dallas Mavericks fan for that moment. So at that point, I was hooked, and I've been a diehard ever since. Mark Cuban graciously gave my family those 2 tickets. Watched at Old Reunion, got to see Dirk, got to see Steve Nash. It was awesome. Michael Finley was a part of that. It was a great experience for me as a little kid, and I can just never quit being a fan of this team after that moment. Really, truly special. And that's my Mavs story for y'all. Story time over. Let me go ahead and wrap this one up. Appreciate you and appreciate all the people that have been commenting in. Let me keep rolling here. So we go to TikTok. Let me see if I got anything else. How can you not root for PJ, Kyrie, and the boys? Man, I agree. Totally agree. 100%. It's always when you make it to the finals the year before, because now that's a bar. Yeah, I agree that the stakes, the expectations even higher than they normally are. 100%. Let me keep going. My girlfriend told me, this is a great comment. My girlfriend told me if I watched the Super Bowl, she would leave me. Dang, I'm going to miss her. Look, it doesn't take much to make me laugh. I really don't. That's a good one. Do I root for the Astros? No. Rangers only. Rangers only. Let me keep going. This is a fun team to watch. I 100% agree with that. Cuban's still known to return emails. Is that true? He gave me free tickets to see Luka in Minnesota. This is a comment on YouTube after Luka no-showed for 3 straight years. Yeah, another story to go along with that. This is Luka's rookie year. So what, 7 years ago, 2018, 2019? We live in Vegas, my family and I do. And my wife and I, she was my girlfriend at the time, we went up to Salt Lake City to watch the Jazz and the Mavericks. We actually saw the series that the Mavs played 2 or 3, I think it was 3 years ago. And we went to that game where Luka hit the big 3-pointer to go up 4 points with like 45 seconds left. And somehow the Mavs ended up losing. They went on to win the series, but they lost that game in Salt Lake City. I was there. We were in the thick of Jazz fans, and they were just giving it to us. Like, I actually think Jazz fans are pretty mild in comparison. I did get a few, like, F the Mavs, and, we got heckled a little bit. But this was Luka's rookie year, though, that we went. And so pumped to see Luka. He was really coming into his own. Was kind of taking the league by storm. The Mavs had just acquired KP, and KP wasn't going to play, but Luka looked like he was. 2 hours before game time, we're in Salt Lake City at the hotel. I get the notification, Luka Doncic out, not going to be playing tonight. And we were just so disappointed. It is frustrating in the NBA with the load management. It does get old. But I'm glad I got to see Luka in that playoff game a couple years later. But that is a really cool story. Really cool story. Absolutely. Look, I can't control like the course of time and like when I was born and when I moved to Dallas. So I don't get the angle of you didn't like grow up or you weren't born in Texas, so you can't be a fan. Dude, I literally moved here like when I was or moved to Texas when I was a super young kid. Like I can't control certain things. But look, in my opinion, I can respect just about any fan as long as you're loyal. Like, as long as you're not a bandwagoner jumping around from team to team, do whatever you want. I don't question people's fandom based on whether or not they were originally born in the state where the team exists. I think that's a pretty stupid way to go about thinking about true fans versus not true fans. But, hey, you do you. JS, you do you, buddy. I hope you come back on Monday after we go live for the Sacramento game. Come back. Everybody's welcome, even the haters. Everybody's welcome. And you know what? I'm glad I had a little backup in the chat today. Sometimes I just got to go at it one-on-one. But you know what? It's good to have a little backup from time to time. So appreciate you, bud. Max Christie is the next big thing. I don't know if we want to crown Christie as the next big thing, but I do think Max Christie has a ton of potential. 23 points tonight, and he scored over 15 in his 3 games as a Dallas Maverick. At this point, how could you not continue to give him a lot of minutes? And he appears to be a lockdown wing defender. Like, of course, you're going to get scored on every once in a while, but Christie played some great defense in Boston. He was locking down Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum at times out on the wing. It was phenomenal to see. And that was the vision that Nico and Kidd and all of them, I think, had when this trade went final with Luka, is you were just going to improve defensively at an exponential rate. And I think you're seeing that with AD down there and Gafford, those two monsters. When you get Lively back, I am so pumped to see when Derek Lively gets back into this squad. That is going to be a scary rotation when you've got D-Live, Gaff, and you've got AD down there in the paint. I don't think all of them are going to be playing at the same time necessarily, but to have those three and being able to rotate them at will down there, incredible. I love it. Keep going. All right. I think we're good, y'all. Thank you so much for everybody who tuned in today. Hope y'all come back. If you're not following along with the channel yet, if you're not subscribed yet, appreciate that sub. Follow along with us. Let's keep growing this good group of people we got talking basketball, talking Mavs basketball specifically. I think we'll be back on Monday. Don't hold me to it, but we'll try and go live on Monday after the game. Wednesday, we'll do our Rangers pod. I think the Mavs play on Wednesday as well. Maybe we'll talk a little Mavs on Wednesday, but I'll be doing my Texas Rangers off-season pod on Wednesday. And then we'll probably do Thursday night after the Mavs game against the Heat. That'll be the last game before the All-Star break. So we've got some good stuff coming up. We got some great stuff coming up. But like I said, I'm a little rejuvenated with the trade. I can't say I love the Luka trade. I'm going to miss him. I'll tune in on Monday and I'll watch the Lakers debut, or at least catch a little bit of it. I'll be watching Mavs primarily, but I'll see how good old Luka's doing in a Lakers uniform. Can't cheer for the Lakers. I don't want to see Luka get hurt or anything bad happen to him, but I cannot cheer for Lakers success. And cheering for Luka's success is cheering for Lakers success. So I wish him all the best. I wish it was literally anybody but the Lakers. I could probably get on board, but I just can't do it right now. I'll always love Luka, but I cannot cheer for anybody in a Lakers uniform. It's just not in me. It'd be like somebody on the Cowboys jump into the Eagles. I'm not suddenly becoming an Eagles fan. By the way, go Chiefs tomorrow. I don't want to see the Chiefs win either, but I do not want to see the Eagles win. No, thank you. So we'll probably enjoy the Super Bowl tomorrow, and then we'll be back Monday. That'll be the plan. Appreciate all y'all. Come hang out again Monday night, hopefully after another Mavs win. And as I always say to end every show, God bless and go Mavs.